Hello and welcome back to Bookish, and welcome back to my July wrap-up and my August TBR. I can't believe that August is already over and September is here. I hope it'll cool off here in Texas soon. All the little school kiddies have gone back to work. My wife has gone back to work. My son just started his new job as a paraprofessional, a special education paraprofessional at a school. I'm very proud of him, even though I am worried about both of them. Here in maskless Texas, where our governor seems intent on spreading COVID to as many people as he possibly can through his inaction and his murderous willingness to prevent other people from taking action. But August started off as a great reading month for me, and then it really just kind of fell off the table, and I had a hard time here at the end of August completing a lot of reading. So I don't have a whole lot to tell you. I really only finished 4 books in the month of August. The first of those was William Faulkner's Sanctuary, which was our Faulkner in August title. We had an incredibly large Voxer discussion group, which anybody was welcome to join at the time, and that will be true next year. I don't know what our Faulkner in August title will be next year, but we had a really lively, sometimes intense discussion about this book, which I reviewed in my last Faulkner in August video, and which I don't really think is a very good book. I don't think that it's structured very well or its characters developed very well, but we did have a great time reading it and talking about it, so that was really worthwhile. I also finished Convenience Store Woman for Women in Translation Month by Sayaka Murata, and that was good. That's one of those books that when I finished it, I thought, well, that was good. I enjoyed that. That was really thought-provoking. That was really interesting. And the longer I thought about it, the more questions I had, the more depth the novel seemed to have. And a shout-out to Kazen for kind of answering some questions I had about those things and talking to me about that. I think I mentioned that before. But I did enjoy that book. I thought it was really good. I also read and reviewed A Ghost in the Throat by Doireann and Griofa, which is kind of a fictionalized historical fiction memoir hybrid about the author's attempt to track down information about the author of a female author of a famous Irish poem or Keane, and her own life, and it was really good. One of the things I like about this is one of those occasions where sub-vocalizing, I really think, is one of those things that I enjoy about my own reading. Sub-vocalization, where you hear the voice, a voice in your head reading the words, definitely slows me down. It makes me a much slower reader than if I didn't sub-vocalize. But I'd actually listen to Doireann and Griofa read some of her poetry and in some interviews, and her Irish, her Irish voice just got stuck in my head, and I can't do the accent, of course. I'm sure in my head it wasn't always right, but it was just really delightful to have her voice in my head. I reviewed this, but I would say this is a very, very Irish book. And I mean that all the best possible ways. It's funny, it's a little bit dark at times, a little bit of gallows humor here and there, enjoyable. I'm not sure as a book that I think it necessarily is flawless, but a really enjoyable read. And then I also finished Marc Nash's Stories We Tell Our Children, his latest book, which essentially centers on what parents do to their kids, intentionally, unintentionally, good-naturedly, bad-naturedly, and it really is more of a series of stories and vignettes. This did take me a while to read because Marc is just a master of language and words. And he enjoys wordplay in his writing, and I suspect, I haven't talked about this, kind of the rhythm, the way sentences work out, and me not being not having quite as good a vocabulary, sometimes I had to look up words, and each one of the little, it's really a series of stories, I think. Each one of the stories related to that theme is in some way separate character, separate idea, separate style of writing. One of my favorites is called Legions of the Damned, in which a little boy works jigsaw puzzles with his grandmother. because his parents are having problems, and it reads almost, it has a sense of suspense and dread, and to me it read almost like a kind of a horror story, you know, where one person's ideas about, you know, what they're teaching a child end up working out perhaps differently. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed getting to kind of read those stories and savor them. That's The Stories We Tell Our Children by Marc Nash, BookTube's own Marc Nash. Anyway, so, and then I read a good chunk out of Forget the Alamo. This was my history reading challenge book, but I didn't get very far in it because I just kind of ran into a reading slump and doing other things at the end of the month. So this will be actually the first book on my September TBR will be to read Forget the Alamo in its entirety. I should make more progress on it today. Today's the 30th, and then this video will go up on the 31st, so I should come close to finishing it, but I won't finish it, so I'll put it on my September TBR. I have 2 buddy reads in September. One is I'm buddy reading The Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel WIlkerson. This was a really popular book on BookTube about a year ago. I read Cass by WIlkerson and really liked it, and Marion Ryan and I are going to be buddy reading this slowly, finishing finally with this really chunky book in November, which would be perfect because that's nonfiction November month, and I'm looking forward to reading this and getting to talk about this book with Marion. Also reading How to Pronounce Knife by Souvankham Thammavongsa, which is a collection of short stories. I believe Thammavongsa lives in Canada now, and Courtney and I are going to be buddy reading that collection of stories. That's going to go relatively quickly. It's a relatively short book. This will be my first buddy read with Courtney, and it's my first solo buddy read with Marion as well. So that'll be nice. Buddy reads are always fun. Another book I'm carrying over from August because I didn't even get to it is Quiet Flows the Una by Faruk Sehic, which is translated by Will Firth. This is a book that I talked about in my August TBR and I'm carrying over into September. And then I have 3 or 4 choices of other books that I want to get to, and given what happened with me in August, my reading, you may think, well, that's overly ambitious, and it is. I definitely want to read Lote by Shola von Reinhold at some point this year. I've seen this on Marc Nash's channel and several other channels who just really said it was very good. Kind of a chunky book, so it'll depend on how things go for me this month, but that's a possibility. Having read a William Faulkner novel I didn't particularly like, kind of want to read another Faulkner, and I've never read any of Faulkner's novels that aren't set in Yoknapatawpha County. And so I picked up what I believe is Faulkner's first book, Soldier's Pay. Actually, I'm sure it's his first book, Soldier's Pay. And I want to read that, so that might happen this month. And then I want to finish out reading the books of F. Scott Fitzgerald sometime soon by reading The Beautiful and the Damned. This is the only one of his books I haven't read. I haven't read all of his short stories, even though I'll be honest with you, I don't really think Fitzgerald's short stories are particularly his strength, but I do want to read The Beautiful and the Damned so I can finish off the Fitzgerald reading and maybe make a video about where not to start with F. Scott Fitzgerald sometime, but I want to finish all those books first. Anyway, there you go. There is my August wrap-up and my September TBR. I probably mixed up the month and called this month August or whatever at some point. So please forgive me. I look forward to your comments in the comments section below. Let me know if you've read any of these books. And as always, thank you for watching.